This is from Page with Njideka Maduka bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
Well, it's Monday, beginning of the work week. It's time to get up and go after the weekend groove. It's July the 14th. How you doing? Welcome to the front page. My name is Njideka Maduka. As always, we're here to do justice to all of the developments in and around the country called Nigeria via our dailies this day. And of course, you know how we do it. We'll bring to you the headlines with clarity, one page at a time. And what do we have here? We have the Sun, we have the Punch, and of course we have the leadership newspapers. Starting with the Sun.
This is from Page with Njideka Maduka bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
It's not all sunny here because the nation, Nigeria, is in mourning. And the Sun newspaper is leading us with this one on the front page. Buhari, ACF, Khan, AYCF, others mourn. Security beefed up at Kaduna home. Buhari, ACF, Khan, AYCF, others mourn. Security beefed up at Kaduna home. Well, security was yesterday beefed up at the Sultan Lane Kaduna residence of Muhammadu Buhari. Journalists and mourners were barred from entering the house by security men guarding the house, saying they had not been officially informed about the general's death and the need for people to visit the house. Well, the news filtered in yesterday about the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. You know, no matter how many times you hear about deaths being reported, you can never really get used to it. And so it was quite surprising that we got the news of the former president dying in the UK hospital. And of course, before his death, there had been that rumor of ill health. Remember last week, we looked at a particular headline where his former media aides were trying to dismiss insinuations that he was critically ill. One of them actually said, well, he was ill, but not to the extent of being at the intensive care unit. And I guess the rumors will have to die now. Incidentally, the rumors of his health were one of the things that characterized the administration of the former president, if you will remember. You know, he traveled a number of times out to the UK for treatment. Sometimes those travels were shrouded in secrecy. At a point in time, they traveled for over 3 months. Remember, I reminded you one of the front page episodes that at a point in time, it appeared we were looking for our president. And the international media had to caption it. Where in the world is Nigeria's president? So everything was shrouded in secrecy. And just as, you know, secrecy trailed his hospitalization until his confirmed death is really a sad thing. Death is something that must come to everybody. And of course, when you look at some of the things that transpired during his administration and towards his death, he's also taking shape in the current administration. You look at President Bola Tinubu, and sometimes you don't get to really know what is going on with the presidency and with the president. Just like recently, the president traveled to 2 countries. He first of all traveled to St. Lucia, and of course he traveled to Brazil for the BRICS summit. But after those visits, we didn't know where he was until he surfaced at the Abuja airport on Saturday night. You know, during that 5-day absence, nobody knew where he was. Also, it speaks volume about accountability in governance. You know, the fact that sometimes politicians give semblance of democratic disposition, but in reality, when they get to office, they become unaccountable to the people. I remember a time in the life of the late former president, he was expected to transmit letter to the National Assembly and transfer power to his vice. That never happened. And the presidency came out to explain it away, saying that the constitution does not allow that the president should transmit power unless it was going to stay, I think, more than 21 days or so. And the court even had to affirm it. And so this is the kind of things we witness during every administration. When it comes to his death, there have been quite a number of reactions. People saying different things, both good and bad. But I think most of the reviews, especially on social media, maybe perhaps because they are coming from young people, have been largely on the negative side. But I saw a post by somebody who said that, she suffered during the cash crunch. Remember, the cash crunch happened after the demonetization policy of the Buhari administration. The fact that they wanted to take the old Naira notes away from circulation, and in the process of doing that to ensure a cashless economy, it turned out that there was not enough cash of the new notes. So most of the Nigerians had to resort to buying new notes, spending so much in acquiring Naira. That was what brought about the term buying Naira with Naira. So this person gave account of her experience. And somebody else also noted that the future of many Nigerians were squandered under the administration. I can't be specific about what he meant by that, but it was an indication that there was suffering in the country, right? I think it started a few years into his administration. The fact that basic things like food became a bit expensive. You would eat, there was a time personally, I would eat 200 Naira plate of food and I would be satisfied until the next meal. But what I noticed gradually was that 200 Naira plate of food was no longer enough for me. I started demanding for extra plates. The economy took a downturn and it has continued up to the present moment. I mean, the present moment is indescribable because there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of hunger in the land. And it's not clear when it's going to end. But some people remember the administration of the late president for things like this, But when you look back, I like to think that his administration actually started in some aspects on the right footing. Apart from the fact that he said the right things during his swearing in, his first actions actually gave hope that democracy was about to take off. But along the way, it got challenged, and that started during the time they wanted to elect leaders of the National Assembly. And leaders emerged contrary to the desires of the All Progressives Congress, which was the party of the president. And after the emergence of the leadership, the president actually gave it some sort of pass. Yes, because I remember the statement issued by Femi Adesina. He said, well, what happened during the National Assembly leadership election seemed to have followed democratic or constitutional process, even though he would have wanted that the preferred choices of the APC, that is Ahmad Lawan and Femi Gbajabiamila in the Senate or House of Representatives respectively, had emerged. But that was not what happened. But after that statement, you saw leaders of the All Progressives Congress, castigating that statement. And that was when we began to hear things like party is supreme. And it got out of hand from there. Even though Femi Adesina, in his book, I think he wrote a book and it was launched last year, exposed the fact that he was the one that actually advised the president at the time to accept what had happened, especially as he had given his word that he was going to support whoever emerged as the leaders of the National Assembly. Buhari, according to what I can paraphrase from the book, gave his approval, but somewhat in a half-hearted way. But regardless of whether he did that based on the advice of his media aide, the thing is, he at least he listened to his media aide. He listened, which is in contrast to every other thing that characterized the life of his administration, every other thing that happened, because after the leaders of the APC made their reservations about the president's statement, it would seem that on his own, Buhari began to wear his own protectionist ideology. And that's why we began to see things that appeared like favoritism. The fact that things relating to the headsmen were not effectively targeted because he kept saying that these people were Nigerians, even though some people pointed out that, well, there were criminal ones among them. He never cared to find out whether these criminal ones were truly headsmen, were foreigners that needed to be dealt with. Was everything was lumped into headers who were presumed to be law-abiding Nigerians. But when it comes to appointments, we saw that protectionist side as well, appointing people from his party, appointing people from his region. I mean, throughout his administration, there was no Southeasterner appointed as service chief. Ministerial appointment as well was somewhat lopsided. And so many other appointments, and I know Ohanaeze was at the forefront of calling his attention to these perceived anomalies. So it's been basically different strokes for different folks. Some people saw him in the positive light, some people saw him in the negative light. For them, economically, he failed. Security-wise, he failed. In terms of uniting the country, he failed. And based on some of the comments that had come with his demise, a number of persons are also asking the current crop of leaders to look inwards, just so that they can have something positive said about them when they leave office. But of course, we can't totally rule out that administration. There were some positives. I mean, during his time, I remember the railway system seems to have been revitalized. Yes, the Jonathan administration started the Abuja-Kaduna rail line, but of course we know that Muhammadu Buhari's administration also put up some infrastructure like the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. I think the Warri-Itakwe as well. You talk about the second large bridge. You look at other government initiatives like the N-Power scheme, quite a number of them. The Operation Safe Corridor. So it's different strokes for different folks. But we're leaving that particular story on the front page of the Sun. We're moving on to the Punch. It's still about the former president, Tinubu. Ex-leaders gather for Buhari's burial in Daura today. Tinubu ex-leaders gather for Buhari's burial in Daura today. Daura, that is his home country in Katsina State. According to Muslim rights, he will be buried today. So the burial could have taken place by the time you're listening to this. We're learning that the vice president is already in the UK to bring back the remains of the former president. But there is a story here, some economic matters here on the Punch. Marketers back refinery sale, project lower fuel prices. Marketers back refinery sale, project lower fuel prices. We're learning that oil marketers and industry stakeholders have thrown the weight behind the proposed sale of Nigeria's refineries under the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, holding for transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability in the process. They noted that the sale or privatization of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries, which have got trillions of naira in rehabilitation and maintenance, with little or no result, will finally open the downstream sector to competition, ensure better pricing, and stop what many described as a financial black hole. It seems we're finally coming to a conclusion and reality that the NNPCL cannot manage our refineries, even though we had been given that hope that it had been revamped, that is the Port Harcourt refinery, And of course, the Buhari and Kaduna refineries were on the way. But recently we heard from Dangote himself, who is the owner of Dangote Refinery, telling us that that refinery cannot work. After about $18 billion have been expended on it, he doubts if it's going to work. He said it's like trying to make an old car work. A car that was purchased 40 years ago, you're trying to revamp it to a new model. He said, if at all you're going to put a new engine, the car may not be able to carry the engine, or the engine may not be able to carry the car. How did he say it again? But basically, it's a waste of fun to keep looking at that refinery. But it's really disappointing because we have been given a lot of hope. Remember the former boss of the NNPCL, talking about Mele Kyari. Under him, this particular refinery was set to be revamped. At a point in time, controversies trailed when some people reported that, how did they put it again? That what was going on there was not actual production, that it was old stock that was being sold as real refined fuel. I keep saying it, how things end up as controversy in this country can really give you a migraine. Because nothing seems to take shape once you want to get into it. Not just Dangote telling us this can work. You see the new GCEO of NNPCL talking about biojewelry. Speaking in faraway Austria, telling us, well, we're going to review that refinery and its sale is not out of question. Oh well. And the Nigerians started saying, well, this is contrary to what Mele Kyari and his team actually sold to us. The hub they sold to us. This is contrary to it. And there you have it. Are they going to review it? Once they review it, who's going to buy it? Who are they going to sell it to? Because that can also be a problem. And you remember the time Atiku was vying for presidency, one of the days he was vying for presidency, he said he was going to sell the refinery. And some people came at him saying, well, how can you sell the nation's refineries and all that? But look at what is happening. The plan to sell it. What does that mean? It means that you have to be careful when you listen to our politicians. It gives you the impression that we actually do not have the requisite expertise when it comes to certain things. And it's so sad. I mean, shouldn't there have been some sort of assessments to know whether this should be sold as scrap or rehabilitated or refurbished, whatever it is? There should have been some sort of assessments. Doesn't mean that we don't have experts who could have done this, and now everything have been refurbished, and we're saying that the refurbishment is good as nothing. Quite pathetic, but whatever they want to do, they should do it, and the money should go to the right coffers. Leaving the Punch newspaper on leadership newspaper, it's still about the former president, the front page there, Buhari, OBJ, IBB, Jonathan, AU governors, others mourn, right? Yeah, you have the three former leaders sending their condolences. Interestingly, OBJ and IBB were never really, would I say, in good terms with the former president, the late former president. But one thing about that, they say, speak no ill of the dead. I remember OBJ was quite critical of Buhari's government. He wrote letter after letter accusing him of nepotism. Yeah, the issue of the investment took a very tense turn. So much so that the former president, OBJ, had to come out to say, well, you're not handling this thing well. We're more divided than before. At a point in time, his criticism became so much that Lai Mohammed, who was the media aide of the late president, had to come out and say, well, you have to give account of what you did and how you ran your government as well. $16 billion expended on power. But now, Nigeria is still in darkness. And I think at a point in time, Buhari himself took a jab at him on that issue. IBB as well. I wouldn't say they had a rosy relationship. Yeah, I think there was damn rift and tension when it comes to how IBB ousted the military government of Buhari. So I think that relationship was not really harmonized. IBB and OBJ did not feature prominently when it came to meetings called by the late president. Even Council of State meeting, I can't count the number of times that they made appearance. But you see, Jonathan was always, somewhat always present. But of course, I will leave that story under leadership. We can't reinstate Natasha now, according to Senate. We can't reinstate Natasha now, according to the Senate. Well, the Senate has declared that it cannot reinstate Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan until it considers the content of the certified true copy of the court judgment in the case involving her and the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. Well, it's no longer news that the court had ruled, saying that her suspension somewhat was unconstitutional. But interestingly, the Senate is saying we'll have to get the certified true copy of the judgment. We can review it and know what the court is saying, and then we can decide the next course of action. But apparently that certified true copy has not been gotten. And I wonder why. Yeah, does it have to do with some sort of administrative bottleneck or some sort of protocol? We know last week we brought it here saying that we expect for them to look at it, especially as the senator had threatened to resume without hearing from the Senate. But of course, it has not been gotten. We're waiting for them to get it so that we can know the next line this matter will take. And last time, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was saying that she was going to appeal part of the judgment. The judge actually ruled partly against her, saying that she has to pay $4 million because a statement she issued during the course of the case was sub judice and all that. So she's saying she's going to appeal. So wait for all of the parties to let us know what else to do or say about this matter. It's been a bumpy ride right here on the front page with me, Njideka Maduka. Hoping to see you the next time as we take a look at all of the happenings in and around the country, Nigeria, and try as much as possible to make sense of them all, right? It's Monday. Go out there, conquer, like I always tell you. Aim, achieve, conquer your word. Be the best version of yourself. Let's know what you think about any of the headlines on our front pages this morning. The former president's news, the NNPCL, refinery news, or the Senate news on Natasha. Which of them tickles a fancy? Let us know in the comment section. Don't forget, you can always follow me on all the social media platforms. You can always listen to this on any of the platforms: Facebook, Spreaker, YouTube, and all the platforms as well. So we'll come your way again next time. Keep aiming for the best, and of course, you stand to be the best. My name is Njideka Maduka. I will see you next time. Have a lovely and fantastic Monday.